Okay, go.
So Stephanie and I are both here in the greater Nashville, Clarksville, Tennessee area. We met actually through Orange Theory. She came in and I think you had like an Arbonne water bottle or something that, I was behind the desk and a friend of my coworker said, oh my gosh, she's an Arbonne thing. And, the rest is history, because when you meet a fellow Arbonne person in the wild, it's just automatic. You're like your family, right? No matter where you are when you're traveling. And it's just such a beautiful community that we have. And so Stephanie has been, honestly, such a blessing here. When I need a tablecloth, she's my girl. I'm like, do you have an Arbonne tablecloth? Or I had a party. I'm like, do you have the holiday line yet? Mine hasn't come in. So she's just been such an amazing blessing. She is one of the most genuine and intentional leaders I've ever met. The way she runs her social media, y'all, you have to go follow her. I screenshotted so I could tell you. It's Stephanie Flynn Health Coach. She does her cute little high five pictures. You'll see her selfies. They're amazing. And just the way that she writes her captions, it sounds like she's talking to you face to face. And she'll, tell a little bit more about her story, but she was also in the military when she started her Arbonne business. She's direct to Ashley Strong, if y'all know her, and she's just all about keeping it real. And I love that about Stephanie. So thank you so much for being here and training our team tonight. I know you're going to give so many amazing nuggets, and I can't wait for the rest of you to hear what she's got to share.
Man, that was such a nice, warm welcome. And I took some notes from like what we were talking about at the beginning. So like, there's lots of, again, you're never in a place where, I should say, you should never have your mind closed off that you're like, oh, I'm not going to learn anything, right? You can always pick up a nugget here or there. And so that's really exciting. So thank you. It really is an honor and a privilege. So again, thank you, Lauren, for inviting me to speak here tonight. And when you messaged me and asked if I would jump on and share my story with the team, I was like, yeah, of course. Like, someone has belief in me that like what I have to say, others need to hear. And so it's really exciting. There's no pressure whatsoever. But again, thank you, Andrea, Polly, and Lauren, for putting your belief in me and allowing me the opportunity to spend some time with your team. And as Lauren said, my name is Stephanie Flynn. I'm an independent consultant, executive regional vice president with Arbonne. My story is not typical, but you can visit earnings.arbonne.com to see what is typical. So tonight I kind of want to take you on a journey. It's a journey of how I started and how I got to where I am now. And so fair warning, there are parts of the story that may make your head spin, but know that I made it through and that I am here stronger than I've ever been. And so the journey that I'm going to take you on this evening really touches on putting aside the excuses, preparing for impact, and building your bank account. So I joined Arbonne 5 years ago this month, actually. At the time, I was in the Air Force. I was serving as a Chief Master Sergeant, which is the top enlisted rank. I worked some pretty long and inconsistent hours, but I was fulfilling my passion of helping airmen and developing our future military leaders. And on the outside, by looking at me, my life was perfect and I had it all together. But on the inside, I was struggling and I didn't really know like what I was missing until I actually found it. I just knew that there was something that I wasn't fully being fulfilled with. I was content with those long and inconsistent hours because I was a leader and I was a mentor for my direct airmen in my organization and across the Air Force. But I had this empty feeling. I often felt like I was force feeding my airmen some information and like I had more to give, but they were like not wanting to receive what I had to share with them. And so I just kept my extra kind of in reserve for when that random knock on the door and says, hey, Chief, you got a second? Absolutely. Like, let's go. And then I would vomit all over them of all the things that were in my extra. But I knew at the same time that I had an expiration date because every military career has an expiration date. And I had known since 2007, so 10 years before Arbonne, that when I retired, I wouldn't have a traditional 9-to-5 job. And I don't know where that thought came from, but what I knew at that early stage in my career was that I wanted time flexibility to do what I wanted when I wanted to do it. And people laughed at me and they were like, how are you going to make that happen, Stephanie? I'm like, yeah, I don't really know. But it's just something that I want. Like, I just don't want a traditional job when I retire. So I found Arbonne when I was from a friend when she introduced me to the 30-day healthy living program, which I'm sure everyone is well aware of, right? I was pouring everything that I had into my airman, and I was putting my needs last. When my husband was traveling, he was retired Army, but he had a traveling job at this point. I often would come home from work and I would kind of plow through a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos for dinner. And I was napping throughout the night before bed. I was napping on the weekends. And sometimes, sadly, I was napping under my desk at lunch, hoping my commander didn't walk in looking for me. I was hugely into fitness, and I always relied on my fitness to pull me through these slumps because I've been there before, but fitness always got me through. But this time, even my workouts were beginning to suffer, and that wasn't something that I was willing to accept or allow my airmen to witness. So I watched my friend across the street share about this 30-day program, her results, how much energy she was having in her 40s. And I'm like, sign me up for that magic pill. And although we know that it's not a magic pill, it's a simple, lifestyle change. But she came over, she talked a lot, and I couldn't even tell you what she all said. But that night in December, I signed up as a consultant. Not because I caught the vision of how this opportunity could fulfill my 2007 dream of not working after I retired, but that I could get a really good discount. So that's why I signed up. I had no intention of working the business as designed. Throughout my career, I'd helped people with their fitness. And anytime that we were to talk nutrition, I just pull something from the internet, see if it worked. Some of it did, most of it was crap. And so I figured, like, if this program worked for me, then I could use it to help others if they asked me for my help. So if you've gone through the program, like legit gone through the program, you know how amazing you start to feel. And people likely started to take notice. And that was my case. Like, my energy was on fire. My airmen were like noticing this extra pep in my step. I was already a morning person and I was a bit more obnoxious in the morning, but by 2, I was a zombie, but no more. Like, I mean, I was making it through the entire day. Our morning runs, I was passing them and was super happy about that. And I was more focused and alert. And so people around me started to see this shift in me, which then drew in my friends and family that were also looking for a solution to their concerns. And although I had zero intention of working the business, what I did commit to from day one was plugging into every training opportunity, every nation call, and every challenge that was thrown at me. I may not have completed those challenges, but I did them. And so you remember that inner struggle that I was having with all that extra that I wanted to give. I finally found my people, like my people who valued personal growth and mentorship as much as I did. And I saw that I saw what they were doing, and it started to open my eyes a bit more to what this opportunity could give me while helping others get healthier and wealthier. So 3 months into my business, I promoted to district manager, and I was getting ready to leave for the Middle East for a year-long deployment. I was transitioning really from one insanely busy job to another, with added pressure of making sure that everyone there came home safely and that we weren't the cause of mission stoppage. So from April of 2018 to April 2019, I literally grew my business virtually with spotty Wi-Fi, living in a metal container with paper-thin walls. But I lived the lifestyle and I was a product of the product, which wasn't the easiest thing to do, but I was committed and I left my excuses behind. I didn't openly talk Arbonne unless somebody came and asked me, because I didn't want the position within my unit or my rank to have undue influence over someone. But the way that I lived, the way that I ate, it drew a lot of attention, and I had a lot of conversation, because eating healthy on a deployment really takes a lot of willpower because there are so many bad choices everywhere you look, and the healthy choices are few and infrequent. So I worked about 10 to 12 hour days, and it really fluctuated based on the types of emergencies that were going on, or if we were having inbound airmen or outbound airmen that were coming or leaving from deployment. And to add a layer of complexity, I didn't have access to my phone or the ability to get on social media in my office. So I'm not sure if you've ever stayed off of your phone or computer while you're awake for 10 to 12 hours. It's super frustrating when we talk about how we can grow our business with Wi-Fi and a phone. And here I am, like, not even able to do that until I'm out of work. So that was really frustrating. And so I did what any normal person would do. I transitioned to a 3:30 a.m. wake up, and I was in bed by 8:30 at night. On normal days from 3:30 to 6, it was my personal development time, my gym time, it was getting ready for work. And then from 6 to 7, that was business time. That was when I was reaching out to prospects, because I was about anywhere from 9 to 11 or 12 hours ahead of everybody back in the States. So when and then I went off to work and I did what I did. And then I would come home between 5 or 6 at night with dinner in hand. I would do some quick check-ins. And then I jumped into some schoolwork because I thought going to school at this time would be great as well. And then I was off to bed. So this was my schedule 6 days a week for a year. Saturdays were my day off, and I did relax, but I did do business plugins throughout that day as well. But more importantly for me, I never missed a nation call during that year, even when that meant that I had to set my alarm to wake up at midnight to hop on those calls. I scheduled virtual events in the middle of the night or at 3:30 in the morning, because that was when my warm network was awake back in the States. I attended live virtual events like GTC and the DAs that my uplines were putting on. I plugged in virtually because literally that's all that I had available to me. And I did my best to always make it live, because there's just a different feeling when you watch something live versus a recording. And then oftentimes we never watch the recording. So I committed to always getting on live when I could. And what was changing is I started to see the vision of needing to grow my team. I was a district of one, but I didn't feel comfortable asking people to join my business. So in the fall of 2018, I started to work on my mindset and really dive into my personal growth. I was working through my biggest limiting belief that I wasn't smart enough and I wasn't deserving of success. And I was digging deeper into that, into what my reasons for doing this business really meant for Tony and me. I was in build mode and I was gaining more confidence in asking people to do the business. And I recognized, like, I was pretty selfish for not sharing this opportunity with others. And I saw what I was doing for others, and that if I could grow the team with working consultants, then my income were to grow. And if my income grew, that meant that Tony and I could do more. And maybe when I retired from the military, he would also choose to no longer work. So growing my income with Arbonne could provide us opportunities or options that we currently didn't have. But more importantly, what really set my heart on fire was seeing the impact that I was making on others. And that if I stayed with intentional actions and grew my business, it just inherently meant that I was helping more people. So as I was preparing to leave the Middle East, I was promoted to area manager April of 2019. I had about 3 weeks in California before I had to fly to Wisconsin, pick up my dogs. At this point, my husband was still working overseas as a contractor. He was meeting me there, and then we were going to drive to Texas, where our new location was going to be. And in those 3 weeks that I was in California, I found every live event that my success line was putting on, and I was driving anywhere from 1 to 4 hours for each event, because I knew from what I'd been watching that in person is really where it's at. And I wanted to feel like what everybody else was feeling. And so for 3 weeks, I committed to doing that on all of my free time that I had. And my team at this time, as you can imagine, were spread across the country, really the world. And so I didn't have a local team. So we stayed connected virtually, but they didn't stop growing, and we continued to gain momentum. and we went into region qualification. And at the time, I was learning a completely different job, brand new into Texas. I still had the same restrictions on my phone and social media. So no phone, no social media during the day. And my days stayed the same, 3:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night, except now I was full on adulting. I had to manage an earlier work schedule. Instead of a 2-minute walk to my office, it was a 30-minute commute each way. I traveled 1 to 3 weeks out of every month. I had to take care of the dogs. And then I had to learn how to live with my husband again and like act like a husband-wife couple. And so that took a lot of time as well. So the amount of time that I had for myself significantly shrunk. I had to get creative on how to use my time. And really, I will say that Region Qual was a blessing, but it was horrible timing because on top of transitioning to a new job, we had booked a 10-day Ireland trip for the last 2 weeks of June without it, like we had booked that like 10 months before. So I had a choice, like our trip was, I could use our trip as an excuse not to work, or I could figure out a way to make it work with some sacrifices. So I committed to maintaining my 3:30 a.m. wake up while on vacation. I set my intention for the day. I followed up with my team, my clients, and my prospects. I did lives. I did all my postings. I even did a couple virtual events. By the time we met the tour group for our breakfast, I already had 3 hours in my day. Throughout the day, then I unplugged from that and I plugged into being in Ireland. We toured, we did all the things, we spent time with family and our friends. And then after dinner, I did a quick check-in, and then it was Tony and me time. We flew home on the 30th, and by 9:30 that evening, we had met the requirements to promote to region. And I sent a quick message to the team, and then I crashed, and because I was tired. And so I get exhausted like every time I tell this story, but in a nutshell, it's not about not about not making excuses really for the hand that you're dealt, right? It's about adapting and pivoting to make it work, whatever you're being faced with. So what did make this journey possible for me? It was all the work that I consistently put into the days, the weeks, and months prior to June of 2019. I was building my Arbonne bank account without even realizing what I was doing. We're all familiar with the bank account, and the more you put in, the less you take out, the bigger it grows. And our Arbonne bank account works the same way, but instead of a checking and a savings account, I like to look at it as having 6 different accounts that all kind of harmonize together to build you a strong business. And so you have an account for your activity, your daily dues. Those are your reach outs, your follow-ups, your nurturing, building connections with people. Every time you do something, you're making a deposit. And every time you don't do something, you're taking a withdrawal. The second account is your team. Are you adding consultants to your team faster than they are quitting or not working? And 3, your clients. These are the lifeblood of our business. Are you doing enough care and feeding for them, or are you only reaching out to them when you need a sale? The 4th is your belief. We make deposits or withdrawals based on how you talk to yourself, what you read and listen to, and what you choose to visualize and affirm to be true about yourself and your future self. The 5th account is your why. And some of your whys have eyes, some are values-based, some are a feeling that you have inside of you. And the more work, the more deposits that you put into knowing your why and understanding the value, the bigger your account grows. And the 6th one is your leadership skills. We aren't born great leaders. It takes work, reading, plugging into training to grow and develop those skills, and then being bold enough to implement what you're learning. So whether you have a team or not, you lead yourself first, so that when your team or your future team comes knocking, you're ready to take on the challenge. So it's doing that daily do, even when you don't want to, that builds your mindset, your belief in your business. That daily do is building your bank account, and not in the financial sense, but an account that you will have to draw on one day when you're facing something hard. And little did I know that I was building that bank account that I could pull from when my team grew super fast and when impact hit. And if I had only worked those first three, that activity, the building a team and the clients, I wouldn't be mentally ready for those challenges. So are you stronger than your biggest excuse? Because one day impact will hit, and this gift that we hold in our hands can help us recover from impact or save us from impact. My entire journey, like I've heard of stories of preparing for impact, but I never related it to my life. I never thought that Tony and I would face an impact that we couldn't manage with our current income or the way that we were living our life. But impact did hit us within the first month of returning from the Middle East. We discovered that his mom and stepdad, they couldn't afford their bills, and they were making choices between medication, mortgage, bills, and food. And we became financially responsible for them at that point. At the same time, Tony was transitioning between jobs, and we were preparing to purchase another home. At the time, the home that we live in now, we already had owned. It was going to be our forever home, but we weren't living there. It was being rented, but we had an opportunity to purchase another one. Because of the effort that I put into my business, we were able to absorb the financial responsibility of my in-laws without feeling the impact in other areas, and able to close on the house next door to our retirement home. That new purchase turned into the future home for my in-laws. So this is the power of knowing your why and living with intentionality. My first month in the business, I was asked to complete my 21 reasons why. And one of those was to buy a home for my mom, my mother-in-law. And it said like a tiny home, but a home nonetheless. And so she didn't get a tiny home, she got a big home. So one full year later, after we purchased that home in June of 2020, we moved my in-laws in next door. Tony had already moved from Texas back to Tennessee because I was getting ready to retire. And so he had come back to start to get things settled. The first things was to move his mom and stepdad. You could see the stress being lifted off of them almost every single day. Life was good. They were adjusting. We were adjusting. And I was closing out on the last few months of my military career. And then impact hit again. 2 weeks before I was scheduled to sign out of the military and retire, Tony's company sold over the weekend and he no longer had a job. And I can't even describe to you the feelings and emotions that we went through. We got on the phone, we had an emergency family meeting, we crunched some numbers, we regrouped and thanked our lucky stars that we had this Arbonne business in our life. Because of the daily do, because of the work I did on my mindset and belief, I grew my business to a point that it afforded us the opportunity for Tony to take a pause, to have choices and not be forced into a job that he didn't want to take. And then I retired and impact hit right away. 3 weeks after I moved to Tennessee, my father-in-law died of a massive heart attack, unexpectedly. And we just had seen him a few hours before that. So Tony lost his job. That isn't something that we expected. Losing Phil so soon wasn't in the cards. I felt robbed of my time to enjoy this momentous time in my life. I was retired. It was supposed to be fun. This was not fun. I was going through the motions for my team to keep them together and keep them moving. But honestly, I just wanted to stay in bed. I pulled from my bank account during this time and I borrowed some belief. I leaned on my team. I was uplifted by my clients and I began to find my new normal. Your why for being an entrepreneur is foundational in building your bank account. And if you never make a deposit, your accounts are going to be empty when your next obstacle hits. And I thought when I retired that I could, when I retired and could commit more time to my business, that it would just magically grow and I would lean on all of those and I could but it didn't. I could, use all of these external things going on in the world as my excuse for these past 2 years. But that's all that they are, is just excuses. Or I could look inward and take ownership for what my part is. So I did look inward, and what I discovered was that my why bank account was pretty empty. I was feeling tightness, defeat, frustration. I was micro quitting on myself and my clients because I lost sight of what my success means to me, what my vision is, and what my why is. And here's the thing, like, we will face obstacles. Making a deposit once in a while to your bank account, it won't help you overcome those obstacles or those unexpected impacts. Making daily deposits to each of those 6 areas, your activity, the team, the clients, your belief, your why, your leadership skills, will support you when this business gets harder. Your excuses and obstacles and impacts will deplete that account pretty darn fast, but putting in the personal growth and activity is also going to grow the account. So I began to kind of just lay in silence and let my mind wander. No direction, no prompts, no agenda. My vision began to resurface, my why and my belief. And every time I would allow myself to just be and imagine, the same things were surfacing. To my delight, my vision was the same as it had been for the past few years. It was just clouded. It's to build a place for people to come to relax, work on their transformation, discover their purpose, and leave better than they came. I continue to, in my vision, I continue to see this party. I have a friend and he has a band called the Honey Goats, and he's playing up on top of this hill next to the Flynn factory, which is my office and our gym. And inside the Flynn factory is just filled with tables and chairs, and there's lights that are strung around the beams, and the fireplace outside is roaring, and it has picnic tables with more soft lights. There's people that are singing and dancing. They're meeting like new friends. They're reconnecting with old friends, and into the woods, or in the woods, I should say. There's a group of people that are walking out. They just took an excursion down to the creek, and now they're coming out just in time to see the sunset. The sky is clear. There's a cool, gentle breeze. And everybody is just having a really good time. Tony and I are on the porch. We're holding hands. We're watching and listening and smiling, and we've done it. We've created the atmosphere and vibe that we have talked about. We're watching our first Flynn Fest unfold. We always say this is where partying is mandatory, but clothing is optional. And so for whatever reason, my vision like evolves around Woodstock, but not to that extreme. But the Flynn Fest is just something that brings everybody together. And when I think of who's here, it's you guys. It's everyone. It's anyone and everyone out there looking for their own sense of freedom. And because I chose to grow my business and to create this space, I get to bring people together. And Lauren's been part of some of my small groups that I've done out here, because I want to have everybody else enjoy what it is that brings me peace to my days. So every single day, we have a choice to take a chance to make a change. Will you add to your bank account more than you're taking out? Are you willing to do the hard things when others around you appear to be having more fun? And are you determined to make more sacrifices now so that you have more options later? What do you choose? So thank you again, Lauren, Andrea, and Polly. This has been an amazing opportunity for me to share a little bit of my heart with your team tonight. You guys have been great, and I wish you so much success. For those that are in qualification, I am rooting for you to finish promotions this month. I'm super happy for you.
Oh my goodness. Y'all, did anybody else feel like we were just kids listening to their teacher read a storybook? Like we're all just sitting around a circle, just listening to this beautiful vision being painted. Thank you so much for pouring into us tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, that was beautiful.
That was so good, Stephanie. Oh my gosh, that was mind blowing. Yes, somebody said, what an amazing, Christiana said, mind blown, what an amazing work ethic. I mean, hello, No excuses, anybody.
I mean, and that is seriously the whole time I was listening, I was thinking, I mean, all those situations I'd like to ask everyone, how many of y'all would wake up at 3:30 in the morning? How many of y'all would, like how many of us would, I mean, just all the things like go on vacation. And then, I mean, that's an easy excuse to say, oh, I'm on vacation. No, but like, how bad do you want it is what it really boils down to,
Right.
So I think that that's amazing. And also just having that vision,
Yeah.
like you didn't know you needed it, like for the reasons that you needed it, like back then when you were committed to it and doing the do. So that's so amazing. So I love
so
it.
beautiful. And I look forward to my personal invitation to Flynn Fest. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
I can't wait to go.
We'll
Yeah.
all be there. We can't
Yes.
wait.
Everybody come on up to Clarksville. Thank you truly, Stephanie, so much. Thanks everyone for being on. I love you all. Happy December.
Thank you, Lauren, for sending
All right,
us.
thanks again, Stephanie.
Amazing.
Bye. Thank you
Great night,
guys so
Stephanie.
much.
Thank you. Bye,
That's
everyone.
so
Thank
good.
you.